By 1914, millions of young men from different continents found themselves huddled in freezing mud, firing machine guns at strangers they couldn't even see. We built machines specifically designed to slaughter each other by the thousands. How did humanity arrive at this point of terrifying, interconnected global violence? To make sense of it, we have to drop the history books of the recent past and rewind the clock entirely. We have to go back past the kings, past the earliest cities, until we reach the silent, waiting vastness of a barren earth. Out of that void, life slowly begins to crawl onto the land. Amphibians leave the water. Reptiles figure out how to lay eggs on dry ground. Over millions of years, mammals develop fur to survive the cold, and slowly their brains begin to grow. For an agonizingly long stretch of time, existence is nothing but biological survival. There are no societies, no borders, and no politics. You eat, you breed, and you try not to be eaten. When early humans finally do group together, the scale is incredibly small. They live in isolated, wandering families, usually ruled through sheer physical violence by a single, dominant old man. The concerns of this group are hyper-local. If a younger male challenges the old man for food or a mate, they fight until one is driven off or killed. Their entire universe extends only as far as they can walk. At this scale, humanity is entirely powerless against the planet. When the Atlantic Ocean finally breached a western ridge and poured millions of gallons of salt water into the Mediterranean basin, it simply swallowed these primitive settlements whole. They couldn't build levees, and they couldn't warn the next valley over. They were scattered fragments, living and dying completely alone. Fast forward to 3000 BC. Those isolated families have clustered into groups of thousands. They stack bricks, build walls, and settle the river valleys of Sumeria, Egypt, and Babylon. Gathering in these numbers requires agriculture to feed the masses and writing to track the grain, but it also creates a ruling class. Priests and kings organize the first armies and frequently march captive humans to the altar to be sacrificed for a good harvest. These walled cities absorb each other, forming massive empires that inevitably collide. The Persian Empire drafts hundreds of thousands from across Asia, marching west and crashing into the city-states of Greece. Later, Alexander pushes back, marching out of Greece, down to Egypt, through Babylon, and to the edges of India. By force of arms, millions of strangers are dragged into a single political sphere. The era of the isolated human tribe is dead. But military force cannot hold a continent together indefinitely. The empires of antiquity fracture almost as quickly as they form. To bind millions of diverse people without a sword at their throats, you need a shared narrative. Buddha in India, Jesus in Judea, and Muhammad in Arabia step into the void, offering universal philosophies to tie massive populations together through common belief. While ideas spread quietly along trade routes, nomadic horsemen accelerate the physical connection. In the Middle Ages, the Mongols erupt from the Asian steppes, conquering territories from Chinese dynasties to European kingdoms. Through the spread of universal religions and the brutal sweep of cavalry charges, the vast empty spaces between the world's civilizations are rapidly shrinking. By 1492, the remaining geographical boundaries vanish. 3 small wooden ships cross the Atlantic, linking the hemispheres and pulling the entire human race into a single, enclosed global network. Packing humanity into this tight global web accelerates the friction. Hungry mobs in Paris dismantle a monarchy, and shortly after, Napoleon conscripts those same citizens to march across Europe, leaving hundreds of thousands dead in the Russian snow. Across the Atlantic, Abraham Lincoln oversees the preservation of the American Union, but the cost is a grim preview of the 20th century. The American Civil War replaces single-shot muskets with repeating rifles, ironclad ships, and miles of trench networks. We are inventing the tools to kill at an industrialized scale, while still operating on the territorial squabbles of ancient kings. Which brings us crashing back to August 1914. The mechanical revolution reaches its logical, horrific conclusion in the first truly global war. The battlefield is no longer contained to a field. Submarines sink food ships catering to neutral countries, and flying machines drop explosives on cities, killing infants in their cradles. Every layer of civilian life is absorbed. Citizens who never held a rifle are mobilized into factories, hospitals, and logistical units to keep the front lines supplied with fresh bodies and ammunition. As the historian H.G. Wells observed, our technology has forced us all together. If we continue to cling to narrow, selfish nationalist traditions in a world this tightly packed, we are guaranteed to destroy ourselves. There is no longer such a thing as an isolated disaster. We share a single planet, a single continuous history from the mud to the trenches, and recognizing that shared adventure is the only way we will ever build a common peace.